which brings us to our monthly topic and our theme. As we close out the month of January, we're really looking at this annual theme of timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision. Now, when I think about timeless wisdom, I'm thinking about ancient wisdom and all of the great scriptures and words that have been written in the past, but how we actually combine that with evolutionary wisdom as we evolve, as we have the foresight to create our living, to create our world, to create a world that works for everyone. This is to what we're speaking of and looking at today. And the talk title for today is looking above. Looking above. And what's interesting for me is that when we envision a world that works for everyone, and when we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power within each and every one of us, that evolutionary vision, that foresight, if you will, is really our call to action. How is it that humanity awakens to its spiritual magnificence? How is it that humanity discovers that right where they are, that there is this power, and there's this creative thought that they can harness and cultivate, and that each and every human being has the ability to create their own life within a world that works for everyone? It's interesting to me that our ancient wisdom, or our timeless wisdom, says that heaven is a state of awareness of our oneness, of one's true nature. So, all of the great scriptures, all of the great writers, all of the people whom we look to in terms of ancient wisdom, whether it's from the Torah, from the Bible, whether it's from the Quran, whether it's from the Bhagavad Gita, whether it's from any of the sacred texts that have been written for hundreds and hundreds of years, what we find is this golden thread within them that state that heaven is a state of awareness of our true nature. And yet, as we look at our lives, how many of us can actually say, yes, I know my true nature? Or how many of us are still discovering our true nature? How many of us have been lied to about our true nature? How many of us are kind of like, I don't want to know my true nature. I'm going to do everything to avoid knowing my true nature because I am afraid. I mean, we have the gamut. We have the gamut. And yet, as we look above, thank you so much. Last week, Reverend Judy Osuna, spoke to a process of looking up. Looking up. That's where we have our salvation, if you will. Because when we're looking down, we're feeling depressed. There's no answers that come when we look down. She did this exercise to where it goes, look like someone who looks depressed. And most of us were like, wah, wah, wah. Right. And we had our heads down. But when we think about being hopeful, or that we have a bright future ahead of us, we're looking up. There's this thing about just naturally looking above, looking up, because also when we look straight ahead, we see the obstacles, and then our mind starts to think about how we're going to overcome those obstacles. But the deal is that, as we begin to look above, we begin to notice that there's a clear skies, that there's a clear vision, that there's a way beyond the world of appearances and what we see with our eye. The thing is this, is that you know, are you committed? Here's the question. Are you committed in 2021? Are you committed to cultivate an awareness of the presence permeating all? Are you aware that in 2021, are you committed to become aware of the power and the presence that is everywhere, all knowing, all powerful, that is living in, through, and as you? Because I'll tell you something that, as a collective, we created 2020. And I know many of us don't want to hear that. So it's like, how could I wasn't thinking about that. We've created, through our collective consciousness, we have created 2020. Okay. And now we already know what that experience was like. And to the degree in which we continue to focus and continue to look at this thing instead of looking above and looking to the sky, looking to where the answers come from, to elevating our consciousness and awareness, to cultivating a knowing that right where I am, God is, we continue to create a world and an atmosphere, whether it's our own individual world in our own, home, house, apartment, condo, shack, shed, wherever it is that we are, we continue to create our world and our atmosphere. Now, there's a quote by one of my contemporaries, Reverend Masando, who lives in Colorado. And here's what Reverend Masando says. Underneath your plans, underneath your need for control, there is a deeper life waiting to emerge. Now, we have a deeper life that is ready to emerge. The key here is, am I allowing my deeper life to emerge, or am I still trying to control stuff? Am I still trying to make things happen in a particular way? Am I continuing to entertain fear, doubt, anxiety, depression, anger? Am I continuing to entertain, politics and all this other stuff that just kind of keeps me in a state of separation? Because to the degree in which I continue to entertain those things, to the degree in which I continue to sing songs about he ain't no good, she ain't no good, he don't love me, he did me wrong, things of that nature, it's to that degree that's what I am going to experience. Now, too bad I'm not passionate about this stuff here, but it is so interesting, to pause and just kind of go, at any time of the day, which is what I'm going to encourage us to do. I'm not even going to challenge you to do this, but I'm going to invite you to, at certain times of the day, just pause and go, what am I thinking about right now? What is it that I'm entertaining when I'm not even consciously aware of what it is that I'm doing? And to bring my mind and to bring my attention on looking above, on being on a spiritual plane, on a plane that actually is powerful and can continue to create. Now, what I'm inviting us to do is to remember that God is all there is. This is basic science of mind philosophy. God is all there is. Now, the moment that I begin to start really believing in the news and believing in lack and limitation, and when I begin believing in depression and anxiety and despair and doubt and fear, then what I'm saying is God is not all there is. There's fear, there's doubt, there's this, there's that. But I have to look above that fear, that doubt, that depression, that anxiety, that anger. I have to look above that, because above that is where the answers come. As I'm looking at the thing itself, then that is what is in the forefront of my vision, of my vista. And then that is what becomes true. and then I become victim to my circumstances. But if all I ever did in this philosophy, if all I ever did was cultivate God is all, wow, we would be levitating in this moment. We would be on a whole different plane. Because when we recognize, and when you recognize that you are living the divine life, right now, you are living the divine life. I mean, swallow that. Say to yourself, I am living the divine life. Because all there is God. God is all there is. I'm living the divine life. You see, whenever you're entertaining doubt, fear, lack, limitation, bring yourself back. I am living the divine life. Why? Because God is all there is. And if you want to keep it really, really short, God is all. God is all. And all means all. And that's all that all means. All. God is all. So even if I were to just anchor a daily practice and cultivate the practice of reminding myself that God is all and that I'm living the divine life now, then everything, as I do that, as I remind myself of that, what I'm doing is I'm elevating my consciousness. I'm looking above what seems to be my experience. I'm not talking about denying the experience. Oh no, this is not happening. I am saying to look above the experience and to remind ourselves of the truth of who we are. Now, as we mature spiritually, there are 4 quadrants, and I've talked about these 4 quadrants, and I want to just go through them briefly. The 4 quadrants of consciousness, I like to call them the quadrants of spiritual maturity, of our spiritual evolution, as they were taught to me and explained to me by Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. You know, is that we come and we think that life is happening to me. Oh, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me, that we have nothing to say, that life happens to us. But as we begin to study and as we begin to evolve, as we begin to know the truth and uncover the truth, we must let go of victimhood. And as we let go of victimhood, we are elevated to recognizing that life happens by me. In other words, through the power of my word, that there is a power and a presence that I can use for my good. And as we begin cultivating that, as we begin exploring those things, we actually draw onto us the palaces, the prince, the princesses, the parking spots. We begin to say, oh yes, I called that forth. I made that manifest. Because we begin to use the power. The power is here to be used, not misused, but it is here to be used. This godness that is presence, this all-knowing, all-powerful presence is here for our use, and we can use it. There is good in the world, and we can use it. As a matter of fact, I want to say we must use it. Otherwise, we fall into victimhood. We must use it. We've used it lots. If you think about even Angie's meditation, where if there's a desire that, you know, we make things happen. All of a sudden, you know, that car we wanted, or that home we wanted, or that person who we've been attracted to, that because our attention is placed there, we draw that onto us. That is the use of this power and presence of this godness. And see, for many of us in this philosophy who've been here for many, many years and have practiced this, we get real good at manifesting. But at some point, we must continue, as Masando said, behind our plans, after all our plans, there is a life that is waiting to emerge from us that is even beyond. It's almost like those commercials that say, but wait, there's more. Order now and you'll also get, right? And so wait, there is so much more than just manifesting and creating our lives and, and calling forth, riches and material things. There is more. And in that third quadrant, when we are willing to release control, when we are willing to recognize that life happens through us, that there is this power and presence that we've been using for our good and for the good of others, but that really we don't even have to direct it. We don't even have to do that, that it is so infinitely intelligent, that it is always seeking its highest and its best, that all we get to say is, I would like this or something better, and simply let go and allow this life, this power, and this presence to live through us. And to be able to, as my friend Daniel Nahmod writes in his song, we're able to put the oars in the boat and let the boat go along the flow. That the flow of life itself is so precious and always for our highest good, then when we relax and let spirit live through us, that our life is amazing, amazing. But here we are trying to control and make it happen. Now, for those of us who like our Bible scriptures and are always kind of going back to, well, what does the Bible say? Well, check out what the writer Luke said here. He said, you won't be able to say, here it is, or it's over there, for the kingdom of God is already among you. The kingdom of God is already among you. You don't have to look for it or seek it out. It is already among you. It is right where you are. It's right there. And so what we get to do is have this power and presence live through us. But we must be willing to cultivate that knowing. And we must begin to now trust. And here's kind of the trust that I'm thinking about. When I was a little kid, I didn't know anything about balance. I had to discover balance. People could tell you about balance all day long. However, when you're starting to ride a two-wheeler, right? If you can think back to maybe your childhood when you learned how to ride a bike and people were like, you just have to balance. And you didn't know what the heck this balance thing was. And yet, they were trying to, for me, it was my abuelita, and she was holding the seat and she was running alongside with me as I was learning and trying to discover this thing called balance. And this thing that is balance, she would let go and I'd tumble. And she kept going and I kept going. I kept trying. Next thing you know, one time she let go and I kept going. And I didn't know she had let go. But I remember discovering balance within me. It's like finding this power and presence, this life that is God. It is within you. It is not outside of you. It is all. And once I discovered that I could ride that bike, then I didn't have to go in a straight line anymore. Then I can turn. See, so that's life happening by me. That's life happening by me. I'm directing the bike. I'm letting it be, right? Now, as I learned how to ride that bike more and more and more, and as I discovered how to use balance in my life, I also learned how to ride with no hands. Woo-hoo! Riding with no hands, like that is like ultimate freedom, right? It's just like, woo, look at me, no hands, and in that learning, I had to trust balance. I had to trust that whether I was steering that bike or not, that there was this balance within me that I could let go of the steering and ride and actually really allow the bike and allow my balance and sit up, and I could ride for blocks and blocks and blocks with no hands, because the trust was developed. And it's the same. It is the same. I use that analogy to speak about trusting God and allowing life to happen through us, that this infinite power and presence that is right where we are, that it doesn't necessarily need our direction to provide us our highest good. That is the life that is waiting to emerge from you. That is the life that's waiting to emerge from you. And lastly, our Science of Mind quote that I'd like to share with you today says the following: true liberty comes only through true harmony. True harmony only through true unity. And true unity can come only through the conscious realization that you are one with God. Right? Harmony, unity, our beingness. I have to realize that I am one with God. I am one with my balance. There is nothing, no thing that can separate my life from balance. There's nothing that can separate my life from that indwelling power and presence that is God. The question then becomes, and still is in 2020, are you willing to cultivate the awareness that your life is the life of God? And are you willing to cultivate the awareness of your true nature? Your true nature is that you are God in the flesh. And of course, we're limited, right, by the flesh to the things of the flesh. But do not mistaken that you are the unique and unrepeatable way that God shows up in human form. Now, I never talked about the fourth quadrant, and that's because as we continue to evolve and as we continue to cultivate our spiritual maturity, and as we continue to allow the life of the divine to emerge, it emerges as us. As me is the final quarter of what I've been talking about, quadrant. Not life to me, not life by me, not life as me, but not life through me, but life as me. There comes this place and time where we get glimmers that we are so in tune and so knowing that my life is the life of God, that life is happening as me, that I am living the life divine right now. And it is to that degree, to the degree in which we dedicate our time and our energy and our consciousness to knowing this, it is to that degree that we actually experience the fullness of our living, that we get to look above circumstances and situations and still know the truth and call it forth as our very life. Now, many of us might think, wow, how do I get there? Glad you asked. There was a suggestion in the outline for today's talk that I thought was absolutely lovely and that I don't get tired of. And that is not only that this specific affirmation, I allow the divine to unfold through me, But imagine saying that I allow the divine to unfold through me, but taking the time to sit for 5 minutes. I mean, put a timer on, grab a candle this week, grab a candle, light the candle, watch the flicker of the candle flame. In particular, what I'm going to invite you to do is, as that candle light is burning, I want you to bring your attention to the very tip top of the flame of that candle and to watch it. To watch it, because you cannot control the way that candle flickers, the way it lights, the way it moves, the way it dances, and the way that flame is living. That flame is a divine life living. Now, as you bring your attention and your focus to the top, and you just allow your eyes to follow it, that is an amazing exercise in allowing life to emerge, which is what Reverend Masando was talking about in his quote, that but beyond the plans, beyond everything that we put into place, there is a life waiting to emerge from us. I'm going to invite you to be courageous enough to watch the flicker of that flame as it continues to move beyond your control, and to watch how you do that as an exercise of allowing this life beyond your wildest dreams to emerge through you. As we now step into that third quadrant, and we release control. As we release control, and we're now practicing and cultivating a life of life through me. Life through me. Now, mind you, many of us want to get to that life as me. I want to get to life as me. I want to jump and I want to go, yeah, life as me, life as me, life as me. I want it all. I'm a mad dog. I want it all. Give it all to me. Give it all to me. Give it, bring it, bring it, bring it. But we have to recognize that for some of us, it is a step by step process. And that this process that we're in of cultivating our awareness of our true nature, that I am living the divine life now, that the divine is expressing through me, that as we begin to utilize these words and to develop this consciousness and to allow that letting go of control by watching that candle flame that you cannot control, it is you're putting yourself and you're setting yourself up for success. It is part of cultivating this knowing and cultivating your own life. Now, how many of us, today will go, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that today. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. But then comes Monday, comes Tuesday, come Wednesday, nobody's doing anything, right? Crickets. Nobody bought a candle. Nobody lit the candle. Everybody's doing the same old thing. You know what they say? If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. And if you're not happy with what you're getting, then you have to change what you've been doing. And so, am I willing to cultivate this awareness of the true nature of my being? Am I willing to cultivate through my spiritual practice that my life is the life of God, that I am living the divine life now? Because when I begin to incorporate that, when I begin to know that and live that and be that, when I begin to actually really believe that I'm living the divine life now, and I look and I go, wait a minute, lack and limitation is not congruent with living the divine life, well, then guess what? Then I get to look at that area. Oh, anxiety and despair and depression are not indicative of living the divine life. So I begin to do my work in those areas. I begin to uncover the wounds of my childhood or the traumas of life that have kept me bound, that have kept me in that first quadrant, that life happened to me. And now as a result of that, this is how I live. No, now life happens by me. Life happens through me. I am allowing life to happen through me. My boat does not sink when I put the oars in the boat. It just goes with the flow. And the flow of God is amazing. The flow of God is peace. The flow of God is harmony. The flow of God is love. The flow of God is abundance. The flow of God is power. The flow of God is freedom. The flow of God is joy. The flow of God is plenitude. The flow of God es alegría. The flow of God is divine. And so when I release control and surrender to the truth of who I am, beloveds, this is a surrender where you win. You surrender and you win. You surrender and win. Discover the life that is awaiting to emerge right from where you are seated. And believe me that we will together create a world that works for everyone. And that together we're awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And that it is by practicing these tools that we experience a transformation beyond our wildest dreams. There will be no more COVID-19. There will be no more war. There will be no more hatred. There will be no more lack and limitation and food scarcity and housing scarcity. There will be love, love. But to the degree in where it's not happening within me, then it is not happening out there. That's why individually and collectively, it is incumbent upon us to cultivate this awareness that God is all and that it is my life. And it is then, as we together as a community begin to cultivate this knowing that we actually together create a world that works for all. I see that. I see us living our best life and loving it. And I can't just see it. I have to live it. I have to do my part so that it becomes not the evolutionary vision, but that it becomes the and now it is. And so I leave you to contemplate that word. It is so, and now it is.